So, if I ask you what is the most commercially successful Canadian movie of the 1970s, or one of, pretty well close to number one, what do you think it would be? Well, it's going to have to be a drive-in movie. It's going to have American actors, and it got to be topical. The song "Convoy," which started the CB culture, was big in the charts of this time of this release, and starred the very handsome Jean-Michael Vincent and the very beautiful Kay Lynn in something called White Line Fever. Now, this Canadian American action crime neo-noir film was directed by Jonathan Capelin and starred again the great Jean-Michael Vincent. In this one, Sam Hummer is a local truck driver from Tucson who works for a Tucson-based produce shipper called Red River. His driving partners are Dwayne Haller and Pops DeWitty. Eventually, Sam's son, Carol Joe, hereafter known as CJ, is old enough to ride with his father. The two of them become partners as well. Sam changes the lettering on the trailer of his rig to read Sam, Hummer, and Son. When CJ begins dating Jerry and the two want to get married, Sam unfortunately dies and the trucking partnership suddenly ends. As a result, CJ joins the Air Force and is soon sent to Vietnam. CJ performs well in Vietnam, is deemed a hero, but all he wants to do is return home to Jerry. Jerry spends her time waiting for his return, which is the subject of the film's theme song, Drifting and Dreaming by Valerie Carter. The opening sequence shows CJ's plane arriving from overseas as Jerry and her brother give him a hero's welcome. We see the two get married and start their life together in humble settings. Now, CJ eventually obtains a loan from the bank to purchase a truck. He and Jerry visit a local used truck sales lot where he purchases a repossessed 1974 Ford WT 9000 cab over rig with a 350 NDC Cummins turbo diesel engine. The salesman throws in a custom paint job to seal the deal, and CJ picks a blue and white paint scheme highlighted with the words Blue Mule. Later, the two are jubilant as they drive the new truck through the deserts around Tucson, imagining the new life that awaits them. Now, when CJ announces to the local listeners on the CB radio that he's in business for himself with an intent on getting as much as he can so that he can get out of Hawk to the bank as quickly as possible. Now, when CJ goes back to work on Red River, he finds out that things are very different. He sees unfriendly and unfamiliar faces now working there. Dwayne Haller informs him that the company is now hauling untaxed cigarettes, slot machines, and other contraband. Dwayne further states that if he wants to stay out of trouble and keeps working, he'll have to keep his mouth shut. CJ gets angry and forces his rig to be unloaded, vowing never to haul illegal cargo again, but not after having an altercation with Clem, the ringleader of the corrupt goons working the docks. Now, later in the day, Carol Joe is pulled over on a lonely highway and discovers that Deputy Bob, the local sheriff, is in on the crooked dealing as well. He handcuffs CJ to his truck and then speeds off. Clem, along with two other goons from Red River, then show up and successfully break his ribs. I saw that scene. It's very, very intense. Now, after CJ recuperates enough from his injuries, he tries to find work at other truck companies around Tucson. He discovers that Red River has blackballed him as a troublemaker, and he's unwelcome everywhere he goes. Livid, he returns to Red River with a shotgun and threatens Dwayne. Dwayne informs him that he's just upon the game and that the person he actually needs to talk to is Dwayne's boss, Buck Wessler, played by L.Q. Jones. Buck is a sleazy lower-level crook who now manages Red River. Buck agrees to let CJ take a load to Dallas, free of any contraband. Sam Hummer's old friend, Pops DeWitty, decides to come along to help CJ safe on his trip. En route, they are attacked by men from Red River, but manage to fight them off and continue on their way. Now, over the course of several months, and throughout the rest of the story, CJ tries to make a living by driving daily loads in and out of Tucson, mainly for Red River. He slowly discovers that Red River is actually owned by a large corporation based in Phoenix called the Glass House, a diversified energy and transportation company. Unbeknownst to him, though, Glass House is actually a front for organized crime. They use the trucking companies that they own as transportation system for the syndicate and its illegal shipments. And here's where the action comes in. Now, over the course of several months, CJ tries to organize the other drivers at Red River and around Tucson to stand up to the Glass House and refuse to haul illegal cargo. In the process, he's beaten, vandalized, cheated, and then eventually framed for Dwayne Heller's murder. After his acquittal, CJ discovers the murder body of Pops, who had been driving the Blue Mule while CJ was in jail in his house. This leads to a climactic confrontation with all the Red River drivers against Buck and his goons at the loading dock. So again, this leads to a climatic confrontation with all the Red River drivers against Buck and his goons at the loading dock. CJ beats Buck senseless until CJ's brother-in-law stops Carnell, Pop's son, also wanting to attack Buck, avenging his father's death. A few days later, Carol Jo, Carnell, and with all the other Red River drivers are invited to the Glass House for a meeting with the senior management. They are propositioned job opportunities with similar business arrangements that the GH had with Buck and his associates. Not trusting the Glass House nor their shady business practices, Carol Jo declines her offers, electing to continue operating on his own and encourage the other drivers to do likewise. That night, CJ and Jerry are viciously attacked by a masked thug during their sleep, and their house is set on fire. CJ wakes up and gets both of them out of the house before it partially burns down. Later on at the hospital, the doctor informs him that Jerry has lost the baby she was carrying and will never be able to have children again. CJ returns home in despair. Moments later, he emerges from the house with a shotgun and gets into the Blue Mule. He radios Deputy Bob that he's headed for the Glass House and to tell him that he is coming. Bob tries to intercept him on a 2-lane road, but CJ runs the deputy off the road, destroying his patrol car. CJ shows up at the Glass House headquarters, faced by several heavily armed security guards who are waiting for him. He accelerates as fast as he can toward them, but his truck is riddled with bullets, and he blows out several tires, the radiator, and the windshield. CJ unfortunately takes one bullet to the face. He manages to run through the security gauntlet, but he knows he won't be able to get the crippled truck all the way to corporate headquarters, so he aims for the giant sign that stands in front of the building, an enormous 2-story glass structure with the letters GH. Carol Jo runs up an embankment leading to the sign and crashes through it, completely destroying it in his truck at the same time. Now, in the last scene, a TV news reporter is announcing that all the truckers in Tucson are on strike. The strike is being held in protest of the corrupt system set up by the Glass House and in honor of one trucker who dared to stand up against it, Carol Jo Hummer. CJ's brother-in-law wheels him out of the hospital room to the parking lot, which is filled with semi-trucks and truckers. They all begin to clap. CJ then begins to smile. Jerry's in the window directly behind him, apparently still hospitalized herself, overlooking all of this. Her lack of a smile may indicate that she's still unsure about living her life as the wife of a whistleblowing hero who was willing to die for his family and the truth. So a very effective plot in a lot of ways, because you get somebody like Jean-Michael Vincent and Kaylin together, very beautiful couple, so it makes a lot of sense. Now, Kaplan received the offer to direct a movie from Peter Guber at Columbia after the success of Truck Turner. He says Guber mistakenly thought Truck Turner was about trucks. He said his goal was to make a modern-day Western, heavily influenced by the films of Sam Peckinpah, and Jean-Michael Vincent was cast by Guber, who thought he was going to be a big star, and we all thought. Kaplan claims that it was the film that Vincent unfortunately started using cocaine was a big part of his downfall as an actor. Kaplan says politically it was trying to counteract the right-wing vigilantism of some of the pictures that were around at the time. Now, filming was in and around Tucson, as well as Monument Valley in Utah. Very good supporting cast here, of course. Kay Lenz as Jerry, Slim Pickens as Dwayne, L.Q. Jones as Buck, Don Porter as Cutler, the great R.J. Armstrong as Prosecutor, Lee French as Lucy, Dick Miller as Bertie Corman, and Martin Cove as Clem. Now, the film earned 6 million theatrical rentals in North America, didn't do well at Rotten Tomatoes, it's only 33% on 6 reviews. But according to IMDb, it's made 35 million at the box office over the years because it did quite well internationally and throughout North America. So again, directed and written by Kaplan, with the writing help from Ken Friedman, produced by John Kemeny, cinematography Fred Cohen-Camp, edited by O. Nicholas Brown, music by David Nichtern. Production companies were International Cinemedia Center and White Line Fever Syndicate, distributed by Columbia, released in July in the US and August of Canada in 1975. Running time 90 minutes. Budget was only 1.4 million Canadian, which is equivalent to 1 million American, and the box office was heavy. Now, Jean-Michael Vincent at the time, ladies and gentlemen, was just like when Kevin Costner was started. We all thought he was going to be a big star, and he had some good success. But it just didn't seem personal demons and bad luck and stuff like that. But at one point, Jean-Michael Vincent was name dropped on Saturday Night Live by Paul Simon, and that's where a lot of people thought he was going to be an next superstar. But this movie, typical Canadian drive-in movie, White Line Fever, has to be seen to be believed. So thanks for listening to our latest Canadian movie podcast, and keep your stick in the ice.